Hey guys, this is George David with George David Investing. In today's video, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite companies, but probably one of your favorite companies as well, and that's Tesla. Now, specifically in this video, we're going to be talking about two things. Number one, Tesla, just like some other big tech companies and companies out there, have taken a beating over the past couple of days because of inflation worries and some other macro factors. Now, what we're going to do is take a look at whether it makes sense to buy Tesla right now or wait for an even better opportunity. We're also going to be taking a look at just how much growth potential there's left in Tesla, and I think we have a pretty good argument that it is a very, very strong growth potential for the future. As always, we're also going to be breaking down today's stock market news. You won't want to miss that because there's a lot of very important things such as inflation concerns, pipeline hacks, and some other factors in terms of Russia sanctions, and some factors such as the tax increases, both in terms of corporate tax increases and capital gains tax increases that we're going to be breaking down to so we can understand some of those macro factors and understand whether in the next 6, 12, or 24 months, we're going to be moving towards an environment where there's going to be a correction in the market or something worse, something like a stock market crash or a recession. So without further ado, let's dive right into Tesla and understand when that golden opportunity to invest really is. All right, so here's what we're going to cover. We're going to cover 4 specific things. Number 1, we're going to be covering Tesla stock analysis and breaking down, number 1, whether it makes sense to buy the dip now or a little bit later. And number 2, what Tesla's growth potential is, so we know just how much upside is still left from this point. Number 2, we're going to be talking about some very important things in today's stock market news and how that relates to what's going on in the market and when the right time to buy Tesla or other companies is. Number 3, we're going to be breaking down, is it time to buy, sell, or wait with Tesla, both in terms of short-term investing, but also long-term investing objectives. And finally, we're going to wrap that all up and talk about what triggers are for a stock market crash to understand when that next correction or stock market crash is going to happen, because those opportunities to us long-term investors are very beneficial, and to some people that have other securities that they're looking to cash out, we want to make sure that we catch that top of the market at just the right time. So let's dive right in first to Tesla stock analysis. So currently Tesla is running at approximately $36 billion a year in revenue. That's their current run rate. Now, Tesla's growth potential or their future revenue potential is $500 billion a year. So we get to this number by first taking a look at both domestically and internationally their electric automotive and electric business automotive potential for their company. And that's a massive number. That in itself could easily push inflation adjusted numbers over $250, $300 billion. Now we take a look at some of other Tesla's products, such as the solar roof, the Powerwall. Over the next 10 to 15 years, that could easily add in another $100, $200, $250 billion of inflation adjusted, both domestically and internationally. Essentially, Tesla is an innovation conglomerate hub that is here for the future, and at $36 billion a year, it is nowhere near ready to scratch the surface of its total market potential. Now, when we extrapolate that out, we get a growth potential of 1,289%. And that is one of the biggest ones out there in the market. So with that, that's why Tesla is a darling to not only myself, but a lot of people as well that see the vision, that see the tangible success of the company and what it's growing into. And with that, That's why Tesla gets one of my really rare, it's not the only company that has that, but one of my really rare all-in buy signals. And that's because not only does Tesla have a tremendous amount of growth potential, both domestically and internationally across different product lines, but also it has already established itself as someone that is very consistent in revenue growth and also has derived profits as well. Right now, there's a lot of cheap debt out there. Tesla can continue that growth engine forward by financing itself, and basically, as Elon says, to the moon it goes. So let's also understand Tesla in terms of its applications to everyday people. And with that in mind, Tesla, I do consider as a mass use stock. Now, at the moment, Tesla isn't a mass use stock, but at some point, probably down the road in about 10 years, I think most individuals on a daily basis will be interacting with a Tesla product in some capacity in their lifetime. So in the future, I see Tesla going into a mass use stock in a similar technological sense as how we interact with Microsoft. I know that's a software. Tesla is a different type of product, but the interaction point will start to close in. So with that in mind, that kind of hedges that bet of, well, that interactions with the automotives and the Powerwall and their other innovative product lines that they're still debuting, will that become commonplace? The answer is yes. Now, before we dive into when is the right time to buy Tesla, let's understand what's going on in the market as a whole. If you're enjoying this video, go ahead and hit that smash button of the like button. This will help grow the channel and also help boost this video to anyone that's curious about an independent perspective on Tesla. And if you enjoy this content, if you haven't done so already, consider subscribing to the channel. I try to post a video full of lots of value every single day. Now let's move ahead to today's stock market news. So let's understand today's stock market news and the major headline factors to understand how that relates back to Tesla and understand both where we are in the stock market and the economy, and also when that right time to invest in Tesla is. Just like I said, it is something I consider one of those rare all-in investment opportunities. So first of all, inflation rate. This came out a couple days ago. It absolutely shattered expectations. Instead of 3.6, it came in at 4.2. That was one of the largest beats of inflation over the past 20 years in the 21st century. It might have been the biggest beat in that decade time frame as well. So that's one thing to consider there. 4.2 is a pretty high number, and as I'll touch upon a little bit later, 4.2 is pretty close to those really high inflation rates that started coming in 2008 that broke the straw on the camel's back in 2008 that plunged the economy to where it was with the Great Recession. Now, I'm not saying we're going to get a Great Recession out of this. All I'm saying is that number is an indication that inflation definitely is heating up, and that's why the market got spooked there a little bit over the past couple of days, and we saw companies like Tesla and Apple take it under the chin. Number two, we're going to talk about the pipeline hack and how that's in relation to crude oil prices, as I talk about in my other videos. Basically, the big driver of what starts to slow the economy down is oil prices. And that, in many cases, is a catalyst for the top of the market and also a recession. And the fact that we're having this kind of oil supply constraints, we're going to extrapolate that out in just a little bit and understand whether that could contribute to an economic and a stock market crash. Next, we talk about the capital gains tax rates and corporate tax rate increases. A lot of places, if you're a wealthy investor, are going to see capital gains rates go from about 30% if you're in a very, very high income bracket, and also paying state in California to well over 50% in a state like California, Illinois, New York, and Connecticut. So there's other considerations that we have to take a look at. Now, these at the moment, in combination with the Russia sanctions and the Russia retaliation to those sanctions, are a little bit behind the scenes at the moment, because at the moment we're focusing in on the inflation rate and the pipeline hack. Don't forget about them, because they're actually big drivers that can contribute to a correction. And for the purpose of this video, it's important to understand that, because that correction will buy us a perfect opportunity to buy into Tesla. Now, moving ahead, when we take a look at Tesla stock right now, there is something very uniquely interesting about this time. This is why I haven't posted a video about Tesla. By the way, that's my dog there. He's a big Bernedoodle, getting older, snoring like an old man. But one of the very unique things about Tesla, and this is why I haven't posted a video about it, is because there really hasn't been a big opportunity to start buying in. There hasn't been a dip. Now, when we look back to the great crash of the COVID crash in March of 2020, we saw that Tesla briefly hit the 200-day moving average. It only hit it for about a day and then went up. Now, Tesla, taking a look at the graph here, has just hit its first 200-day moving average peak since that one-day time frame in March 2020. All of that being said, this means that what's going on with Tesla right now is significant. It is definitely hitting levels where it hasn't done for before. What I'm saying here is it time to buy, sell, or wait with Tesla? If you have Tesla, do not dare sell it because you most likely bought in at a good time. And Tesla stock at the very minimum has 12x opportunity. I would say that number is more towards 20x, but let's break down first when that right time frame is, and let's talk about some of those macro factors as well, so you're well educated about when to time that buy-in. So right now, if you're a long-term investor, you're going to wait. It's very possible Tesla is going to slip into a death cross, and you're going to wait until that golden cross point to invest. In the short term, the market, don't do anything. It's such a good buy-in time. I mean, yes, you can go into Tesla, maybe get the contrarian bounce there, get a couple percent. But at the long term, if you're a long-term investor, and the point of this channel is to really advocate for the maximum upside, limiting the downside, and the stress-free benefits of long-term investing, then you want to just sit pat here and wait for that opportunity. It's going to be coming soon. But before we go and say that, there's other things we need to take into consideration because there might be other better opportunities coming in for Tesla very shortly. So first, let's take a look at the market as a whole. Right now, the market's kind of being spooked a little bit about those inflationary fears. It starts having images of 2008. It has images back in the past when inflation starts going up and starts causing some form of stagflation in the market, where inflation's going up, the market is stagnating, and so are equities, because ultimately inflation causes earnings to go down in that respect. So the market as a whole is basically, it's going up, and for the foreseeable future, there aren't things that are going to bring it down until I talk about the next thing. But very importantly, as I always emphasize in my videos, you never want to just buy a random dip. You want to buy it at the golden cross point, and you want to sell at the death crosses. And with Tesla, you want to hold this baby at least for another decade because there is so much upside, about 20%, not 20%, 20 times what it is now. It could go up another 1,000, 2,000% after that next golden cross point opportunity. Now, like I said, right now, Tesla has just dipped below the 200-day moving average. It most likely will hit a death cross maybe for just a couple days, and then it'll hit a golden cross point. This just gives us confidence that we hit our floor and we're going up there. So the moral of the story is don't buy random dips and sell. What you want to do is, if you have a great company like Tesla, you want to hold it for a decade, get that beautiful return, go $100,000 to $1 million, $2 million, if that's your investment portfolio there, then yeah, you want to buy that at that golden cross point, and you never want to just buy some kind of random dip there. Okay, moving ahead, let's talk about the triggers for a stock market crash and why it's important to understand that in relation to today's news, and why it's important to understand those triggers to understand when that right time for Tesla is, because there might be corrections coming up in the near future, if not a stock market crash. So as always, number one of the biggest things are spiking oil prices. When oil prices go above 50% above the average of the last 2 years in crude oil prices, that causes an event that affects spending both in terms of consumers and businesses, where consumers can't spend as much. They have to allocate more of their money to fuel and transportation, and that gets factored into food and also energy prices as well. So that impacts spending, that impacts other areas of the economy. Once that happens, you've peaked in the market, a recession will shortly follow after. Sometimes we don't know what's happening. There's a lack of confidence because of many multitudes of issues. If you see unemployment rates go above 0.6% from an economic cycle's floor, that causes a chain reaction where spending isn't happening in different places of the economy, and it causes a self-fulfilling prophecy that triggers the top of the market and also a recession. Right now, we're at 6.1% unemployment. Our floor was 6.0, so we're technically good. But if we saw all of a sudden unemployment rate go up to 6.6%, that essentially is the perfect trigger for the spending in the economy to start being affected in different areas, and that will trigger an economic crash, recession, and stock market crash. Also, spiking interest rates, something we probably won't see in the 21st century. This is more of an issue due to policy with the Fed back in the 70s and early 80s, where there was a little bit of incongruency over strategy, but that could also be something that stops lending, and lending is another person's spending, and that can cause an economic contraction as well. Finally, one of the wildcard triggers is a pandemic lockdown, whether it's a new variant of COVID or some other virus that comes in. If that comes in and causes lockdowns, that impacts spending, and that will cause a stock market crash. So understanding those four factors, let's understand today's stock market news to understand when it makes sense to go in for Tesla stock and other very strong stocks as well, and when those perfect buy-in opportunities are. So finally, we have these 5 news stories going on. Number 1, the headline right now this week is the inflation rate. Now, although inflation has gone up, it's mostly a reflection on oil prices year over year. Don't forget, last year we saw oil prices at this time around 20, 30, maybe low $40 a barrel time for, cost per crude oil. This is only a problem if oil prices spike. Now, I know the pipeline hack caused issues in the southeastern portion and the mid-Atlantic portion of the United States, but that's not necessarily something that's going to drive up in the aggregate crude oil prices. Now, there's businesses going on in California, Texas, all over the place, and oil prices have gone up to near $70 a barrel. The issue really would become if crude oil prices spike all of a sudden now to $100 a barrel in the next month or so. If it hits $100, $110 a barrel, that will trigger the top of the market, and it will cause an economic contraction because basically businesses and consumers can't price that in. Businesses can't pass that along fast enough. They start laying off people or not hiring more people, and consumers aren't factoring that in. They can't spend as much. I don't see that being an issue, especially as the pipeline is opening up and oil prices are only very steadily going up, although it is going up, and it is going up a lot over the past 2-year average. Now, the other 2 factors are the tax rate increase proposal by the Biden administration. Ultimately, capital gains tax rates, if for the rich, will be offset by more disposable income in the middle class. I don't really see that being an issue there in short. And corporate tax rate increases, that's the one we got to look out for in terms of causing an economic correction, a stock market correction. And that's because when corporate tax rates go up, although it's a little bit, it's not going to really impact profits and all that, it's going to impact earnings. Earnings are going to go less, but ultimately this is not an unemployment issue. Increasing corporate tax rates is essentially an accounting issue where your profits are being taxed. You can still hire people, you can still do R&D to grow businesses. So the market, once those tax considerations, that tax plan is going to come in, there's going to be a nice contraction of about 20% across the market. And companies like Tesla are going to be beneficiaries to that for us long-term investors that are looking to get in at the right time and at the right deal. So don't forget, once that finalized tax plan comes in with capital gains tax rates and corporate tax rates, it's going to spook the market, it's going to cause a correction because earnings are going to be affected, and then the market's going to keep chugging along. And then finally, we're going to be talking about Russia's sanctions. This is something that's behind the scenes. It's very interesting that the pipeline hack has something to do with Russia, and that's going to set the stage a little bit down the road where if Russia starts cutting back on oil supply, it's going to raise prices, especially in terms of China and Europe. And once that happens, that's going to mean some of those big tech entities like Apple, Microsoft, that do a lot of international business both in China and in the European nation states. Once that happens, consumers are going to be able to spend less, and that's going to start causing economic contraction. So once that happens, we definitely got to take a look at a potential for the top of the market to happen and a stock market crash to follow. So the moral of the story is, let's break it all down. Tesla is going to have an opportunity soon to get in at that right time, a time where we know we're getting a great price, but the market will still continue to go up. That's the golden cross point. We're not there yet, but we're a couple of months away from that statistically significant time frame. Tesla is a great investment, I believe up to 20 times of what it is right now, where that next market peak might happen about 10 years down the road. So Tesla is a great investment. There's definitely going to be an economic correction once those tax plans are finalized by the Biden administration. And finally, what might do us all in for the next economic crash and stock market crash is the Russia sanctions. Now, don't forget, the market is extremely overvalued, and it's going to be a massive crash, especially in the tech sector. Does that mean that some of the growth stories, such as Tesla and other companies, are bad? No, because those are going to be stocks that are going to continue to weather it and it'll continue to go up. But it is important to understand that's why you don't just buy, just like in 2000, at the top of the market before the crash comes, because it's going to be very hard to swallow that, both in terms of if you put a lot of money into a company you like. It's just better to time it at the right times. And you do that by going in at the golden cross point and also selling at the death cross point when there's not much more growth to happen. At the moment and for a while, Tesla has a lot of growth to happen. So this wraps up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I look forward to bringing out another video tomorrow. Y'all have a great day.